Welcome to worship. Good morning. And a very happy Father's Day to all of the fathers in the congregation. Here we are, still in some form of lockdown, and sending you this video clip with lots of love from all of us. Let's listen now as Alan Clegg reads from the scriptures for us.
Good morning. I hope this finds you well. The reading is taken from 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 13 to 23. Therefore, with minds that are alert and fully sober, set your hope on the grace to be brought to you when Jesus Christ is revealed at his coming. As obedient children, do not conform to the evil desires you had when you lived in ignorance. But just as he who called you is holy, so be holy in all that you do. For it is written, be holy, because I am holy. Since you call on a Father who judges each person's work impartially, live out your time as foreigners here in reverent fear. For you know that it was not with perishable things, such as silver or gold, that you were redeemed from the empty way of life handed down to you from your ancestors, but with the precious blood of Christ, a lamb without blemish or defect. He was chosen before the creation of the world, but was revealed in these last times for your sake. Through him you believed in God, who raised him from the dead and glorified him. And so your faith and hope are in God. Now that you have purified yourselves by obeying the truth, so that you have sincere love for each other, love one another dearly from the heart. For you have been born again, not of perishable seed, but of imperishable, through the living and enduring Word of God. Here ends the lesson. God bless.
A preacher was addressing a group of people one Sunday morning, trying to impress upon them the importance of salvation. All the people of this congregation, he cried out from the pulpit, one day you're all going to die. Do you hear me? He shouted. One day you're all going to die. Well, as he was in the midst of his sentence, he saw someone giggling in the front row. The preacher stopped what he was saying, stared at the man who was giggling and said, "What is so funny?" Aware that he had now been caught out, the man looked around and said shyly, "I don't belong to the congregation." You see, sometimes it's good to be a stranger in a foreign land. The Apostle Peter writes this letter to God's elect, strangers in the world. Peter is writing to us. We are the strangers. To be a stranger means that the place in which we live and work, where we have settled and raised our families, the place that is familiar to us, is not our true home. We're not really at home here. We are really only passing through. To be a stranger is to believe that we can't really settle down too much. As Christians, Peter describes us as strangers in the world. To be a stranger does not mean that we must live as if we have no joy. Ellen Glasgow, in her autobiography, tells us about her father, who was a Presbyterian elder. Full of rectitude, she writes, and rigid with duty, he was entirely unselfish, and in his long life he never committed a pleasure. Peter Jay, a journalist for the Baltimore Sun, described the sober intensity and personal austerity of one of America's politicians with this line, "He dresses like a Presbyterian." There are probably Christians like that, who never crack a smile and who can't abide a joke. And I suppose Presbyterians contribute to their dull quota, but I must confess I don't meet very many of them. Being a stranger in the world does not mean that we lack a sense of humor or that we are so heavenly minded that we are of no earthly good. You and I, we are strangers in the world. Two of the most interesting views about Christians or the church that I've read come from two authors of the last century. Flannery O'Connor, the novelist, writes about his in-laws who started attending church because the service was so horrible that they knew there must be something else to make people come. And the Christian author C.S. Lewis wrote, "I disliked so much their hymns, which I considered to be fifth-rate poems put to sixth-rate music. But as I went on, I saw the great merit of it. I realized the hymns, which were just sixth-rate music, were nevertheless being sung with such devotion and benefit by the old saint in the elastic side boots in the opposite pew. And then you realize you aren't even fit to clean those boots. It gets you out of your solitary conceit." You and I are strangers in the world. Peter writes to us, we who are strangers, and he gives us 5 rules, 5 principles for living contained in this passage. Now, if you read in the Message, Eugene Peterson puts it this way: "So roll up your sleeves, put your mind in gear, be totally ready to receive the gift that's coming when Jesus comes." Roll up your sleeves, put your mind in gear. As my granny used to say, sit jou gat in rat. Christian service is the most badly applied concept of all that Christians do. Either we do it too little or we do it too much. Remember the Thessalonians who gave up their jobs and sat on hillsides looking up at the sky, waiting for Christ's return. Day after day they lazed around, singing and praying and waiting. Paul had to reprimand them about their lack of solid good work. Some of us need a good solid kick in the rear so that we will start serving each other. On the other hand, the greatest work project of the ancient world was an utter and complete failure. When humankind started building for the sake of fame and prestige at the Tower of Babel, it ended in disaster. God had to put a stop to it by frustrating their ability to communicate. So it seems that work can be good when we're not avoiding it for our own purposes. Unless the Lord builds the house, writes the psalmist, the builders labor in vain. Peter writes, roll up your sleeves, put your mind in order, and be ready. The second bit of advice that Peter has for us is, don't be like them. Don't lazily slip back into those old grooves of evil, doing just what you feel like doing, says Peterson in the Message. The world is a tough place for a stranger to be. It's dog eat dog out there, and peer pressure is subtle and powerful. With very few exceptions, the world will make you feel and make you do what it wants you to do and feel. Conformity is the name of the game. I wonder whether our world will not get even more so in the time to come. People are like that. You don't conform, you're out. Don't be like them, says Peter. A crowd has no brain. As a stranger in the world, you must be different. Have principles. Have self-control. And then the third thing he tells us to do is to have hope. If there is one thing that Christians are known for, it is hope. Christians hope. A people without hope are a dead people. One can break a person by taking their hope away. The Nazi concentration camps of the Second World War were designed to destroy hope. So are all modern concentration camps and times when terrorists take people captive. Torture methods are designed as hope destroyers. Peter writes, you didn't know about hope then, but now you do. Friedrich Nietzsche was a great antagonist to Christianity, and he was once asked what made him so negative towards Christians. He replied, I would believe in their salvation if they looked a bit more like a people who have been saved. I would believe in their salvation if they looked a bit more like a people who have been saved. Hoping is what Christians do. And then Peter says we should be holy. That's the fourth point. As obedient children, let yourselves be pulled into a way of life shaped by God's life. A life energetic and blazing with holiness. God said, I am holy. You be holy. What a beautiful way to translate that piece. The definition of holiness comes from the images of being set apart. Many people keep two sets of crockery, one for ordinary everyday use and the other for special occasions. This has been the case since early times. Being holy is like being set apart for special use, the good china. The message to us, we who are aliens and strangers in the world, is to consider ourselves special or set apart for good works. He chose us, writes Paul, in him to be holy and blameless in his sight. Be holy, strangers. Be special for God's use. And then finally, the fifth point, love lavishly. Here again how Peterson translates it. Now that you have cleaned up your lives by following the truth, love one another as if your lives depended on it. Christians love. It's what we do. How will they recognize us? Say Jesus to the disciples. Says the disciples to Jesus. By your love for one another, Jesus replies. I want to read a piece for you from this commentary by William Barclay. In this commentary, he quotes a famous letter that was written in the early church called the Epistle to Diognetus, one of the best-known works of the post-apostolic age. Christians are not marked out from the rest of mankind by their country or their speech or their customs. They dwell in cities both Greek and barbarian. Each has his lot as his lot is cast, following the customs of the region in clothing and in food and in the outward things of life generally. Yet they manifest the wonderful and openly paradoxical character of their own state. They inhabit the lands of their birth, but as temporary residents thereof. They take their share of all responsibilities as citizens and endure all disabilities as aliens. Every foreign land is their native land, and every native land a foreign land. They pass their days on earth, but their citizenship is in heaven. God is love. Not only does he love, but his very character is love. And he calls on us to love one another. Love one another, says Peter, as if your life depended on it. Let me remind you of the 5 points. 1, act. 2, don't be like them. 3, hope. 4, be holy. And 5, love. They are instructions for strangers and aliens in the world. Instructions for us. We are different, my friends. We may even be strange. Maybe you don't feel strange. Maybe you'd like to be different, as God has made you so. Be like Nancy Mears, who was a lapsed Catholic, and even although she was uncertain about belief in God, she began attending Mass again regularly so as to prepare a space in which belief could flood. May God bless you this week. Amen.